Oh, there you are, YouTube. Diddle. Subscribe if you're interested, but also no pressure. But if you did, I would greatly appreciate it. Hey, my wife and I, we just watched this documentary on Disney Plus called Music by John Williams, and it was about, you guessed it, John Williams. This kind of covered really his whole life and up to present, and like it got into him growing up and his parents and his siblings and all of that. Interestingly, I don't think I knew that he grew up in the industry a little bit. His dad would assist with scores. His dad was a drummer, so he was kind of around. He was around this stuff, which is interesting because you might think immediately nepotism, but then you're like, well, he's like the greatest, so it's not. I mean, he definitely had um, the luck to be born in that area, raised in that area, and have the dad have sort of experience in the industry. But I mean, John Williams had to be the best to become the best, right? So there's that, and it showcases that his dedication and his absolute immersion into music. He was just surrounded by it. His whole family, all of them were musicians, and all of his parents' friends were musicians. So he said growing up he thought really that was the only thing you could do, is like when you grow up that's what you do, that was it. So it was kind of like that path was just ready for him to walk down, because he thought it was the only path out there, which I thought was interesting. And what's also cool about this is it showcases his early career, because he was like 40 or something by the time, maybe even 45, I can't remember, by the time he started working with Spielberg. So he had this career all ahead of that he did. He did like so much television and earlier movies, and he did all those disaster movies like Earthquake and Towering Inferno and Poseidon Adventure. Like, I had no clue about that stuff, which was amazing, because really when you think of him, you think about Jaws and Forward. I mean, he did Sugarland Express, but you think of Jaws and Forward. And I guess to you, Jaws and Forward. I'm doing that because Forward's for me is that way, Forward for you is that way. But um, yeah, so that was really interesting. I loved learning about that, all of the things that he had come up with, and some of them, are super famous. But it's not like you think, oh yeah, John Williams, like the Naked Gun theme, the beginning of that, like that is like what's the word, like based off of the television show, or at least the song, um, is like, I think that's where I recognized it from anyway, is from a show called Gun. Like, he did the theme for a show called Gun, which I believe is the same thing that was used in the Naked Gun. Because as I was hearing it, I was like, I know this. Is this from Naked Gun? I was trying to place it. It's been years since I've seen those movies, but that's where I was kind of putting it. And there was just like so much stuff he was a part of or did that is iconic, but you don't like label him as being attached to it, which was just wild. Like Lost in Space theme, like the second theme, they like redid the theme, and he was the one that designed it, and it was just like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. But then he starts working with Spielberg, and then we all know that history. That was really cool. And of course, George Lucas and the George Lucas stuff, like that was a major event for him. I mean, he was busy working while Star Wars was becoming this phenomenon, and he was like hearing, it's successful. He's like, oh, that's good, that's good. But then, like, that's kind of when a new part of his career took off, like where he was starting to be invited places to conduct orchestras. So it like created a whole nother career path for him to run alongside working with scoring movies. And then he also, does his own composing as well outside of film. So he's doing all these different things, and he did the theme for the Olympics, and I don't even know if I knew that. And just like NBC Nightly News, I think, and all sorts of different things, like maybe football or something. I can't remember. But I remember John Tesh had something. I think maybe he had basketball or something. But anyway, we're talking about John Williams, or Johnny Williams is what he preferred. But then somebody convinced him that, you know what, if you want to be taken more seriously, you can't be Johnny Williams. That sounds like there's a kid score in these movies. You got to write John Williams. So he did start calling himself John Williams. I can't remember the movie that he started that with. It was it Fiddler on the Roof? Maybe he did that with Fiddler on the Roof, which I don't even know if I knew he scored that, but I think he did it with Fiddler on the Roof when he switched over to John. Maybe it was a couple movies before or something like that, but they sort of showcased it in a way that it made it seem like Fiddler on the Roof was the first one where he made the move to being known as John Williams rather than Johnny Williams. But all of his friends, as you can see in the documentary, still call him Johnny. So Johnny's what he goes by. And you get some behind the scenes, not just some music stuff. You hear about his wife and that heartbreak, and his kids and what his kids went on to do. They're all musicians, and one of his sons is in Toto, that band. And yeah, it was all very fascinating. And as I was watching, like, Spielberg pops up a lot in it, which was cool, hearing George Lucas and Ron Howard and all these other composers, Yo-Yo Ma, lots of people pop up in this too, just sing the praises. Christopher Columbus, of course, because he did Harry Potter and Home Alone. So, and he did a lot of comedies back in the day before, Jaws and Star Wars and all that stuff. Oh, Close Encounters. I loved hearing him talk about Close Encounters. He actually made the comment that Harry Potter was like the easiest one he ever did. He was just like, I don't know why. It was simple. It wasn't hard at all. So I thought that was interesting. This iconic score that was just a really simple job for him. But as I was watching, when I watched the trailer to this, a few weeks back or something like that, and I didn't see anything about Superman, and I was like, ooh, are they going to ignore that because this is on Disney, are they going to act like he didn't do Superman, or are they going to do, sort of comprehensive, show us everything? And they did. So when I saw Superman, I was like, okay, this is about everything. It's not just the Disney projects or the now owned by Disney projects and things like that. Because I don't know, I was like, that one's just too iconic to leave out. I know Spielberg's involved, so they're going to have, like Jurassic Park, which is Universal and stuff like that. But are they going to leave out Superman because, conflict with, or competition with Marvel? But they didn't. It was there. I just found it alarming that it wasn't in the preview. So I was like, oh no, they can't leave that out. And they didn't. So no worries there. But one thing that did kind of bother me there, they can't talk about them all, but they were, highlighting a lot of them, a lot of his films. But one that they did not during the movie, and I was kind of bothered by, saddened by, was Hook, my favorite movie of all time, scored by John Williams. And I'm watching it, and I can tell it's coming close to an end, and I'm like, man. And then they didn't talk about it. They didn't spotlight it at all in any sort of way, and sit there and talk about it and discuss it. Because that one was originally supposed to be a musical, and then Spielberg sort of backed off of that idea. He said he got a little scared, and he sort of regrets that. There's a whole generation of people that love that movie, man. You gotta accept that, and I hope you know that, Spielberg, who's not watching this right now. But there are a lot of people, whole generation, that grew up on that film, love that movie, and see it as something flawless. So I just want you to be, I don't know, just to know we love it. But yeah, at the very end, they're showing like little clips of other movies that maybe weren't spotlighted, and then they show Robin Williams with the right when he throws the food, with the spoon, and then he like lifts up the spoon and he's like looking at it like this. That that image popped up on screen, and I was like, ah, yes, finally. But we weren't hearing the music, and it was like, ah, man. They're just, they're just showing us the image, but then the credits start rolling, and then what do they play? They play the score from Hook for the credits. That made it feel so important, because I was like, they are completely ignoring this movie, and then we get that little blip of an image, but then the credit score is the score from Hook in this, and it was just like so validating or something. I was so happy. It just felt great that it was given such a strong role to play in this documentary to close us out of the film. And it was great. I loved that. Sure, they didn't talk about it, but it had a major role in this documentary, and that just made me very happy that it is the end credits score from my favorite movie, one of my favorite John Williams scores. Is, I mean, heck, that's a weird thing to say. One of my favorite. They're all. I mean, the guy never fails. Also, he was talking about jazz. I should talk about that too. He was really into jazz for a while, and included some of that in his scores, especially Catch Me If You Can. But anyway, Hook at the very end for the credits, playing that major role, very important part of the film, the end. It was great. Made me happy, very happy. Right there, we got the the croc clock, and Hook right here. My favorite movie of all time. It is showcased, so if you were worried about it and you didn't know it was going to be in the documentary, it is. Don't worry about it. So yeah, have you seen this? What is your favorite John Williams score? What's your favorite movie with John Williams doing the score? It's not all Spielberg and George Lucas. There's a lot of other stuff out there, and I loved learning about that. All the earlier stuff before them. That was very cool to find out about his career before Spielberg and Lucas. Anyway, of course they talk about Indiana Jones too. I guess I should say that. They talk about Jurassic Park, all the classics and stuff, right? The classics from my era, but also that early stuff was good. And then again, so thankful that they included Hook there at the very end to play that very important role. Anyway, I want to know what your thoughts are on John Williams and his scores. Let me know in the comments below, and perhaps we'll see you tomorrow for more Pure Hangout.